Where can we buy stocks in Australia for the cheapest brokerage, commission, and fees? That's what we're going to dive into in today's video. And before the end of the video is out, you're going to have a complete list of all of the brokers that you can imagine, or at least all of the top brokers that you can expect to see that are going to have a lot of the Aussie stocks available for you to buy. So without further ado, let's dive into today's video and figure out which is the cheapest broker to buy our Aussie stocks from. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Jason Pizzino and you are joining me here on my channel where we learn everything about optimizing your wealth. In today's video, we want to find out where we can buy stocks from with the cheapest commissions, cheapest brokerage, least amount of fees, all of those pieces where they try and just skim a little bit extra off the top as we're going to invest our money. Now, why do we want to find a cheap broker? At the end of the day, the more we lose off the top from fees, commissions, brokerage, the more the stock that we've purchased has to make up to meet those losses. So if it's costing us 1 or 2% to get in and 1 or 2% to get out of a trade, then we're going to have to make up at least that to break even in our trade. The more I dove into this topic, the more I realized there were a lot of areas that I had to cover in order to figure out which is the cheapest broker. And so what I want to do is list these things that we should consider before picking a broker, then dive into each of the brokers and discuss their fees and other areas where they might be looking to take some of the profits from us. And then lastly, just give you a recommendation of the one that I particularly liked. And this isn't to say that this is the only one out there, but at the end of the day, there's just so much information out there, and I thought I would at least break it down in this way to come up with a solution at the end of this. Now, at any point in the video, if you've got some ideas or questions, leave them in the comments down below. That might help other people who are watching this video to find out where they can find the cheapest brokers to purchase Aussie stocks. During the course of this video, there may be some terms which are unfamiliar to you, so leave them in the comments down below and I'll get back to you on those. Let's move into the first part of the video and things that we should consider before picking our broker. The list of items to consider when we are choosing our broker. Now, of course, we're looking at the fees. Some of these brokers will say no fees, but they'll make up for the fees in other areas. They've also got spreads. Some will say they have the smaller spreads, and essentially the spread is the difference between the buy and the sell price. If there's a large spread, then the broker can make up some of their costs within that spread. Also, their support. What is their help like? What is their support base like? Do they have 24/7 customer support? Is it just email? Is it 24/7 chat on their website? How can you get in touch with them if you need to ask a question quickly? The user interface and user experience is quite an important one. Do they also have an app? How many stocks do they have to choose from on their platform? Do they have a small selection or do they have a huge selection of stocks? And how is that going to affect your investing decisions compared to the brokerage prices? Are these stocks full ownership shares or are they CFDs or other types of fractional shares? Something else to consider, whether you are preferring to hold the share as the ownership of it yourself, or if you're just happy to trade in and out of these over a longer period of time and you're okay with a CFD which isn't ownership of the share, but you're still exposed to the price change in the share. And the last points to consider are your portfolio size, how big are each of your trades going to be with each different purchase, and how many stocks or companies do you want to have in your portfolio? That is going to make a huge difference on how much you pay overall in commissions. Now, that's not necessarily the commission itself, so the brokerage fee per trade, but if you've got 20 different stocks, companies in your portfolio compared to 5, then obviously you're going to be paying a brokerage every time you get in and out of that position. Lastly, you might want to consider what type of investor you are. Are you a beginner, intermediate, advanced? How do you figure that out? That's going to come in other videos, but I think if you don't have any experience, then probably stick with some of the major brokers to purchase your stocks from. Obviously, if you have more experience, then choose some of the others, give them a go, see what they like, see how you enjoy the user experience. I'll cover these two subjects in later videos, how to start a share portfolio and how to buy shares as a beginner. But today, let's get into the cheapest brokers. Firstly, I'll mention that in Australia, we don't use Robinhood, no eToro, and no Charles Schwab for buying Aussie shares. Now, you can use them, but they don't have Aussie shares. It's also important to understand where your stocks, your shares are being held. Now, when you choose a broker, you don't have to stay with this broker forever. And that is because your shares are held with CHESS. What is CHESS? CHESS stands for Clearinghouse electronic sub-register system and is the computer system used by the ACX to manage the settlement of share transactions and to record share holdings. So all of the shares that you have purchased are recorded on CHESS, which is used by the ASX, and that's why you can change brokers at any time, because all of the shares that you own are recorded here. And so when you change broker, you fill out a broker to broker form and you can move those shares to a different broker so that you can have all of your shares on the same broker. Finally, on to the different brokers. Now we have two different types of ways that we can purchase shares, or at least be exposed to the fluctuation in the prices, because at the end of the day, we essentially are here to make profit. So whether you own the share outright or just own the CFD and profit from the price going up, doesn't really matter in my opinion at the end of the day. So the CFD providers that you can use in Australia are Plus 500, CMC Markets and IC Markets. Now there are a few more, but these are the three that I'm going to talk about in today's video. Now with Plus 500, no fees, lots of ASX stocks to choose from. I counted over 100 on there and I like the UX and the UI. Looking at CMC Markets, no fees again. They have a brokerage commission of about $7 in and out. That's something to consider. Plus 500 is probably making theirs up in the spread, but they also have pretty tight spreads. Either way, these companies are all going to find a way to make some money because that's the way it works. They all have to find a way to make some profit. And now IC Markets, no fees or commissions, but they have just a small selection of Aussie stocks. 22 is what I counted on there, essentially the top 20 plus a couple of others. Now out of those CFD picks, just out of those three, let me know if you use any other CFD providers to buy your Aussie stocks with in the comments down below. Love to check those out and see what their fees and commissions are like. But out of these three, Plus 500 is the one that I like to use. It's the one that I find the easiest to use. Obviously, there's a huge selection of different stocks to choose from, and I prefer that in case there's something else that I'm liking the look of, and I don't want to have to go and open up another brokerage account in order just to buy that other stock. So I'm taking Plus 500 for the convenience over the other two. Now on to the meaty part. I'm going to stick with the top four banks plus one extra being Self Wealth. Now the top four banks, they're all pretty similar, around that $10 to $20, maybe $25 per brokerage fee, and that's going to be on any amount of stock. Commonwealth Bank Australia's trading app CommSec, which many will be familiar with, has brokerage fees of $10 up to and including $1,000. So if you're purchasing $1,000 worth of shares, then you'll pay $10. If you're purchasing $100, you'll pay $10. So that's a huge difference. You don't want to be purchasing small amounts of shares, especially when the brokerage fee is at least $10. Now, if we go between $1,000 and $10,000, we're paying $19.95, so basically $20. And then from $10,000 to $25,000, we're paying $30. Anything over $25,000 is 0.12%. Westpac starts at $19.95, so they're already double the price if you're only buying small amounts of shares. Say it's $1,000 and you're going to pay $19.95 to buy those shares, which is essentially 2%. So remember what I said at the beginning of the video, it's going to depend on how many stocks are in your portfolio as to how much you pay total. Of course, we're looking here to find out which is the cheapest broker to be able to purchase our portfolio of stocks. NAB is $14.95 up to $5,000. So that's a little bit better. The percentage is all right. I don't imagine too many people are going to be purchasing shares over the phone, but if you have to, that's a much greater price. And all of these top four banks, or the four biggest banks in Australia, will offer over the phone, but it's somewhere between $60 and $80 per trade. Obviously, we'd like to stay away from that sort of fee. Lastly, with the top four Aussie banks, ANZ, and ANZ's fee is $19.95 up to $5,000. So we're still up there. You can sort of see that a lot of these trades are pretty much between $20 and $30. If you're looking at purchasing stocks with a total value up to $1,000, then CBA looks like it could be the option for you. But I'm going to jump into Self Wealth as the final option here, and now they have a minimum and only fee of $9.50 per brokerage. So overall, in terms of price, Self Wealth wins out hands down. Now they have a great platform, they have a great user experience, they have an app also. Now it's not as easy as CBA, but it's not too far different. If you look at through the comments when you're downloading it on the App Store, you can see that Self Wealth has been improving their app as well. So pretty much overall, it's got a lot going for it. And we can see the comparison rate here on the Self Wealth website. They're $9.50 regardless of how much you purchase, $5,000, $10,000, $100,000, or $1 million worth of stock. Always $9.50. My verdict, Self Wealth. That seems to be the easiest platform to use. They have an app, they have plenty of stocks available, but it looks like Self Wealth is developing a lot of these products. And what I did find out with Self Wealth is they are founded by former CBA banker Andrew Ward in 2012. You can see here on their website, Australian fintech company Self Wealth is officially listed on the ASX today after closing its initial public offering at $7.3 million, which isn't so bad for an IPO. This gets a little bit better because if we look over at Self Wealth's chart, it is on the tear. It's at 30 cents now at time of recording at the end of May. It had a huge dip when we had the COVID crash at the middle or end of March, got down to around 10 cents. So this stock has tripled in value since late March, which is 2 months ago from now. So my verdict is Self Wealth. I found out a lot of information I wasn't expecting to find, and I'm going to put Self Wealth on my radar to watch as a stock to invest in. At 30 cents a share, its market capitalization is only around $59 million. And for a brokerage service like this, which is founded by a former CBA banker who understands the industry, I assume, I've got to do more research on that. With that in mind, I think Self Wealth has a lot of growing potential to do, even though we've just seen it on a triple digit tear from its lows at the COVID crash. As I said, this is by no means an exhaustive list of cheap brokerages in Australia. This looks like it's just the tip of the iceberg, but I think it's a great place to start and find other areas to delve into. So I came here to find out which was the cheapest brokerage, but I think I've just found myself a new stock to invest in, which is going to make me a hell of a ton more money than saving $10 per brokerage. I think that's worth a like down below and a subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything, and I hope that you do well finding your cheapest broker. Use Self Wealth. I'll have a referral link in the description down below for Self Wealth. You don't have to use it. Doesn't bother me either way. I just think this company is looking pretty good as, for one, a cheap brokerage firm, and two, a great company to invest in. Thanks again for joining me on the channel, guys. Remember to hit subscribe. You can join me on Facebook and Instagram if you want to check in with me daily. Thanks again for joining me. And remember, until next time, have more fun to get more done.